Shalom, shalom, back on the road. Stay on the go, you know. But call out Yahbashim Yahshabashim Kakadash. Yo, man, I've been checking out like with South Africa, and so you know the Lord said you know the nations have drunk of thy wine, therefore the nations are mad. So a lot of people, you know, these different countries rising up against America, rising up against Babylon. You know what I mean? The assembly of great nations that it speaks about. Let the weak say I'm strong. So these nations, you know, the cat, the rabbit's out the bag, or however they say it, you know, but basically the gig is up. And, you know, Trump, he had went to confront, you know, the South African president about, you know, farmers being killed in South Africa, white farmers. So, all right, let's say that was the case. You Edomites, so-called white people, you go around, you know, you go around covered, the scripture saying Habakkuk 2, they covet fields and take them by violence. So you go around taking people's lands by violence, and you covet their area. You know what I mean? And give them little to no resources about their own land. So what is they doing? They taking their shit, they coveting their own land. Now the scriptures say render not evil for evil. But we talking about heathens here. And we talking, you know, we at the end. So they like, look, we going, look, we going take our shit back. You know what I'm saying? So we gonna kill these farmers and take our shit back. You know what I mean? And kick y'all off the land. You know, South, you know, which is Africa is the land of Ham. That's they, you know, that's they, them different Hamitic nations. That's their inheritance from the Lord. You know what I mean? The Lord said, Genesis 10, I believe, verse 5, he said he gave their lands after their families, after their tongues. So this their land. You know, Esau, you devils come out of Edom, Mount Seir, which is a shitty land, and it's not abundant, it's not that big. But since you took over the earth, you know, and all kings did that shit. They wanted to extend their empire or their influence. So they went in other areas like taking over lands. And that's how a lot of kings got destroyed. You know, they had wanted to extend, when you look at King Ahab in the scriptures, him and Jehoshaphat, the Lord spared Jehoshaphat, but King Ahab wanted to take back Ramoth Gilead. And he wound up dying in the process. And they was unsuccessful. You know? So, people always, you know, kings, and the kingdoms today ain't no different, just more modernized, have always wanted to, like, extend their territories and their allies and their lands and become more and more powerful. And through that greed, got their ass wiped out. So, you know, you got a lot of Amalekites. You know, Elon Musk, he from South Africa. So you got a lot of Edomites went over there and bought up their shit. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, but you gotta pay homage. You know? And you gotta give like a tax, you know what I mean, and show respect to the people, provide jobs. You know, you can't just go over there like fuck you and shit on them and take over their shit. Now, you could do that with Jake, because Jake hate each other. Jake is more docile and under the curses. But these other nations, they ain't going for that shit. So that's one. And two, you know, Esau, you know, he could be like real arrogant. You know, when he do that shit, you know, he feel as though he got rights to your shit. So, for two, when I was watching an interview with the president of South Africa, and it said Donald Trump confronts him. You know what I mean? That's how they labeled it, or I don't know, but it was like he confronts the South African president. What the fuck you mean confront? When you deal with confrontation, or the word I confronted you, that means you basically approach somebody like you wanted some smoke, like you wanted some beef. You know what I mean? And the South African president, he all bitch docile and shit. So, but you got, these different dudes, I forget his name, but under Mandela, that gave a speech, because that's who Trump was mainly bitching about. You know what I mean? This dude, under the Mandela campaign, he was bitching about him. So lucky. Like, yo, why this dude rousing the people up? Because he was like, yo, he's basically like a rebel type shit. And he like, yo, you got to show, the president of South Africa is more docile and shit. But this guy, maybe he's not docile, but maybe he just playing the game, like trying to be neutral about shit, which is cool. Because South Africa is part of the BRICS. You know what I'm saying? So that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So they part of the BRICS. So they might, be playing like both sides to a degree, getting resources. But they down with Russia in them. You know what I'm saying? So the president, although he was acting like neutral or like trying to reason with Trump, you know what I mean? That could all be like deception. Trump wasn't going kind of like not going for that shit. He was talking anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I ain't really trying to hear that shit when y'all watch that interview he had. Right? So he like, yo, why you want to arrest this guy? For rising the people up. Because he was saying like, yo, we got to take our lands back and all that shit. So they showing all these dead farmers and shit about over there in South Africa, Edomite farmers. And they like, yo, we don't know where the fuck you get this picture from? Because that's the devil for you. You know what I mean? He'd be done Photoshop some shit, or put up some old photo or some, however. They like, yo, where's this located at? So the guy under the Mandela campaign, Mandela dead though, but he like took over. He like, yo, I know South Africa like the back of my hand. Like, I don't know where the fuck that's at in South Africa. You showing all these dead Edomite farmers. So at the end of the day, knowing the devil, it's probably bullshit. Then Trump, he done let other South Africans over here, Edomites, because he was like, yo, they had to flee, they being oppressed and killed. But wait a minute, the Issacharites, the so-called Mexicans, this they fucking land. Y'all took it from them. Y'all destroyed Mexico and their economy. So they got to come up here for labor. And guess what? They getting killed down there and oppressed by the gangs. And you shipped them up out of here. So that's hypocrisy. But since they so-called Edomites, maybe Amalek, some of them go back to Amalek, the small hats. My bad. I had to make a tight little dip right there. Motherfuckers is cutthroat out here. I think a lot of New York drivers moving around this motherfucker. They starting to get a little ruthless out this bitch. But anyway, so so that's hypocrisy, as far as that. So what I really think is happening the U.S. and the West trying to break up the BRICS. Because the BRICS, that was formed from Putin. So Putin like, all right, I can't directly lock horns with America right now. Really, it's the Lord's will, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start like a political war against America, against the dollar. And that's what the whole BRICS shit is about. Really, it's about the Charagma, the MOTB, because the elites run the show. But, you know, the West's goal is to cripple the BRICS. So if you going, you know, Russia, they too strong. You ain't going to manipulate Russia like that. China, too strong. India, too strong. These like superpowers with nuclear capability. You know what I mean? Brazil, too strong. Even though, you know, you don't really want to fuck with Brazil because they right south of your border. They could really fuck you up. But, you know, I would say Brazil is like the second weakest country in the BRICS outside of South Africa, you know. Because Russia, China, and India, they got nuclear capability. But Brazil and South Africa, yeah, the C and the S. Oh, well, I mean, yeah, Brazil and South Africa don't. The B and the S in BRICS, they don't. So, but South Africa way on the other side. And South Africa big. That shit take out a nice foot, a portion of the bottom of Africa. So it's a nice size. So they probably figured, we do this farmers being killed shit to cause like a start an uproar. And even if the farmers being killed, they probably killing the fucking farmers and blaming it on the locals. You know, it's a fucking dirty game. See, that's why the Lord gotta come back. It's like a fucking, when you got so much grimy shit going on, it's like, yo, we need a referee now. Like, motherfuckers ain't playing fair. We need a ref. No, and who's that ref? The Howard. Because everything is just like cutthroat. And when you in a society like that, you like, man, you don't know what to trust. You don't know what to believe. But we filter everything through the scriptures. So they probably doing that to try to infiltrate South Africa, cause uproars or whatever, to try to cripple the BRICS through their weakest member. You know what I mean? That's what I get from it. Because it's always some underlying issue. Salaki, if you hear the like drops, it's raining out here. It's fucking raining hard as hell for like the last 3 weeks. It's funny, you would think it rained in April, but it's fucking May. It ain't rain at all in April. Normally, you know, April showers bring May flowers, so they say. But May, that shit dies. I mean, April was dry. Now we in May getting all this rain. So hopefully June we can have some constant sunny days. It's June! Ain't no microchip. It's June. Little inside joke for brothers in the know. But yeah, man, so I wanted to touch on that, you know, South Africa. So the nations, you know, they coming up and they got these different spokesmen. And the president, he ain't calming these fucking people down. He like, yo, he told Trump, yo, it's a democracy. They can say what they want to say. You know, see, in Babylon, they would have hit a motherfucker with, yo, inciting a riot. Like, because even though you got freedom of speech, they can still come down on you. Nah, nigga, because they got so many fucking laws, you inciting a riot. You know what I mean? And people die, and they be done charge you with some shit. But the president of South Africa, like, yo, these dudes that's rousing the people up, and they got a nice, strong, big-ass following. You know what I mean? It ain't like no fucking 50 people. It's like a couple thousand people at these gatherings and shit. So He like, yo, it's a democracy. This guy ain't do nothing. He just a hype man. But it's power in words though. You know what I'm saying? So you could, you know these entertainers, these rappers and shit. Imagine you go to a show without a hype man. Say you got like a Busta Rhymes or some shit for a hype man. That's gonna make your show even pop even more. So the hype man, words is powerful. So he hyping and rousing the people up over there. And they on some shit like, man, fuck that. This is our country. You know what I mean? Y'all colonized, y'all took our resources, y'all did what y'all did, but at the end of the day, we kicking back up. And the scripture says, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, so they do not rise and fill the cities. Because when you check it out, all these cities, man, these Edomites, you wouldn't even think they was abundant like that. But these different cities in the world, Esau is fucking everywhere. But you gonna get chased. The scripture say these shall get chased out of the world. So you getting ran up out of South Africa, supposedly. You know what I mean? But, there's always some bullshit going on behind the scenes. But South Africa is with the BRICS. And the whole purpose of the BRICS is a political alliance to devalue the dollar, to go against the dollar. And they've been pretty successful so far at it. So, because they trying to get under that headlock that the West got them in with that U.S. dollar. OPEC and all of them. You know what I mean? So, and it's all going to go into the digital currency, the MOTB and all of that. So, it's all the Lord's plans at the end of the day. On the left-hand side, the plans of the elites. All wars are banker wars. So, they fund both sides. But hey, man, it is what it is. Lord willing, that was edifying. So I don't want to catch y'all on the rebound. Y'all about some shit.